Welcome to A Few Thoughts About, the show where we dig into thinking and how it shapes our experience of life. Each week, I share insights and observations to get you thinking. No long lectures, just quick, thought-provoking episodes to shift perspectives so that you can make the change you want to make. Let's get into it. Hey, so before we get started, I want to invite you to try something out, right? One of the things that I get questioned about all the time is like, what is it actually like to work with a coach? Like, what does it feel like? How do you engage with it? And so I put this intro course together to give you a taste of that, to give you a taste of some of the things that I like to talk about and work on. And so this course, and it's totally free, completely free, is about thought, is about working with thought and what you can do to change how you feel right now. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that I talk about with my clients, especially in the beginning. This can be incredibly helpful if you're just looking for a free way to sort of reframe or change the way you think. Check this out. So you can go to scottpeniard.com/intro, INTRO, and you can get signed up. It's totally free, and it's a great way for you to just get a taste of what some of this stuff is like. So scottpeniard.com/intro. Go check it out. I'd love to have you try it out. That's it for now. Let's start the show. Well, hello there, and welcome to A Few Thoughts About Waiting for the Right Time. This is something that comes up with pretty much every single person I coach, and I know that I went through this like for a long time, and I'll tell you about my experience with it. But before I dive into that, let me talk about what I mean. What I mean is this idea that we'll just wait. You know what? I've got a business trip next week. You know what? My in-laws are in town. You know what? It's the holidays. It's vacation. It's the summer. It's the spring. It's the winter. It's fucking Tuesday. Like, we all of us have this ability to create reasons why this won't work, right? Or why we should not quit at that given time. Now, I want to be very clear. There actually are times where it's more advantageous than others. And we'll talk about that. But I think that this idea ends up more than anything inadvertently being an excuse. Like, if I look back on my own process, I see so many times where I pushed out and I pushed out and I pushed out because I was afraid, right? Because I was afraid of what the process would be. I was afraid of how it would feel. I was afraid of failure. And so I would keep like kicking the can down the road. And it's not uncommon for people who go through this process to turn around and be like, oh man, I wish I had done this years ago, maybe even decades ago. So I want to talk about a couple of things that I think is really, really important when thinking about this. Because you do need to be strategic about like when that date is going to be. But the more we push it out, the bigger it seems, the worse everything gets. So there's two main points here and some sub points that go with it. As usual, I have a bulleted list with indentations. So I have stuff to go over. So the first thing is that this is a process, not an event. A lot of people look at quitting drinking as like what happens days 1 through 10, 20, 30, whatever, right? They think about that. They don't think about all of the work that goes into it. Now, if you've been working with me or if you've been around other programs, you know that there's a lot of work that leads up to it. There's a lot of work that happens during it. And there's a lot of work that happens after, right after that initial time period. So one thing that can happen is we can say, and it might be true, like, hey, I really probably shouldn't quit this week or next week because I've got X, Y, and Z. And, you know, maybe that's valid. Maybe that's legitimate. That's fine. But that's not the only piece of the process that, like, actually there are things that you can do as you go through that experience to help make that actual quit day easier. And there's a couple of things. First, listening to stuff like this, engaging with this sort of material, engaging with books or YouTube videos or podcasts or any of it, like engaging with that stuff, that is incredibly powerful because that's helping you change your thinking. And that is something that doesn't require that you quit. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people I work with, I like to work with for a while before we jump in, right? So engaging with alcohol-free stuff, programs, books, podcasts, blogs, there's a million things out there. That stuff counts, right? And it counts toward the process. The other thing that can be incredibly impactful in this is to drink mindfully. So maybe I am pushing this out for a week, but then I want to pay attention as I go through this experience to how alcohol actually makes me feel, right? And that could be things like setting alarms in your phone that are like, hey there, how are you feeling physically? How are you feeling mentally or emotionally, right? To check in with yourself and to get a very real picture of how alcohol is either helping you or holding you back as you try to navigate whatever this difficult time is. This is incredibly valuable information, and doing this is absolutely part of the process. So those are things you can do even if now isn't the right time. Those are things you can do to help build the plan. The other thing that I want to talk about, which is similar but different, but it is this idea that a lot of people have that the only thing that counts as progress is quitting. The only thing that counts as progress is not drinking. And if I may be direct, and I will because it's my podcast, if I may be direct, that is an incredibly oversimplified view. Progress is a thing. Changing the way you're thinking is a thing. Getting new insight into how it's impacting you is a thing. All of these things are part of the process. And there isn't just one measuring stick. Every single person I've ever worked with has fought with this stuff and wrestled with this stuff in different ways. And it's something that we share in common, that we want to get those days, marked down, right? We want to be able to start counting, and we want to get to 5 and 15 and 50, right? We want to be able to do that. And that makes sense. But from a very real standpoint, that is not the only part that counts as progress. There are so many other things. So if you're changing how you're thinking, if you're changing how you're feeling, I've had so many people who have come to me and been like, you know what, Scott, I'm still drinking, but I'm actually drinking a little bit less. Or now that I'm paying attention, it doesn't feel as good, right? Whatever any of that is, it counts. So please count it and give yourself credit. Delaying the quit date does not mean that the process stops. All it means is that you're going to continue to gather data, right? You're not making an excuse to not engage with whatever the process is. You're just engaging with the process at that pre-quitting place, right? So those two things are very important. One last word about something before we wrap it up, and it's this. It is very, very easy for us to perpetually and continuously kick that can down the road. I have a lot of experience with this, and I have told you guys before, that there are things that I really regret that I wish I could have back. My oldest daughter, for years of her life, it's not that I don't remember being a parent, but I wish I was more present. I really wish that I could have been, because I have been with the other two, and it's been amazing. I wish I could have done that. I wish that I was more present for my wife. And there are things and ways that our relationship has grown and changed that have been absolutely incredible. And it's stuff that I wish I could have had sooner. And I know I could have, had I not continued to push this date out. And so when you look at things this way, there tends to be this question that pops up, which is okay, so how do we know the different, how do we stop ourselves from keep kicking the can down the road? How do we do that? And, the best advice I have on this, well, two pieces, I guess. First, get a coach or work with a group, set up some sort of accountability, have a place where you can talk about this stuff, where people are free to call bullshit, because that makes an incredible, incredible difference. That's sort of thing number one. But thing number two is just be radically honest with yourself, right? There are times, like I said, there are times where maybe it does make sense to wait. But every obstacle that pops up isn't one of those times, right? So if you can figure out like, yeah, maybe the holidays are too crazy, I'm going to wait until January, then start putting the pieces in place now where you will actually act. Tell people, get some accountability, get a plan in place. Again, if you're working with a coach or a group, this is much easier. But do stuff to stop yourself from continuously kicking the can down the road. It can be so difficult. It can be so hard to take that step. But every single person I've ever seen take that step and actually go alcohol free, even for a period of time, even for a week, right? Whatever that stretch is, they start to gain momentum, and it's that momentum that keeps them going. When they get to the end of that stretch, that they go for the next stretch, that they figure out what works, what didn't work, and everything else. So put that stuff in place so that you can at least do that, right? If there is a time where you're pushing out, put it in place, right? Reach out. Now, of course, this is so much easier to do with a group and with other people, which is why, like I said, find a coach, find a group of people, talk to your neighbor, anyone that you can talk to kind of use as that sounding board, allow that to happen. The last piece that I want to say about this, and this is something that I think everybody needs to hear, it is 1,000%. I actually hate when people say 1,000%. So I'm going to take that back. But what I mean is it is absolutely unquestionably okay for you to be scared, for you to not want to do this thing. That's normal. That's absolutely normal. Get to a place where you can talk about it. Fear is the thing that makes us continue to kick this can down the road. And if we can work on that fear, and if we can find out we're not alone, then a lot of different things can change. All right. Well, that's it. Tell me what you think. Head on over to scottpenier.com/podcast. You can write me an email there. You can also submit a topic request. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll be back again next week.